Gary. I think they go out to just further places. So they're in our backyard. I think we should work with them, sir. And it's reflective what the board's asked me to do thus far as partnership with them, and it has my support.
Is there any expense on this?
There's none. There's no expenses for the district. There is some timing and some training that will have to occur on the part of the nurses because, for lack of better terms, you can think of them almost as student teachers, and the nurses are going to have to onboard and train, and there's going to be some of that work done. But in return, we get some extra hands on deck once they're trained up and able to help us. So,
Well, but these aren't inexperienced nurses either. These are.
no, you're looking at juniors and seniors. Yep.
They're at the end of their training.
Yes, sir.
I'd also like to point out that the IEP commencement for high school is we're not adding any money to the budget.
Okay, any further questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion's carry.
I need to abstain
Okay,
due to my current role as the interim dean of the College of Education and Communication.
sounds good, Sue. Okay, like I said, Jared will have some paperwork for you to sign here
Already
after. Okay.
You might want to Xerox it, 'cause-
All right,
Not that I don't
Cinda.
support it. I want everybody to know that, not that I don't support it, but it could.
Cinda, it's your
Okay.
turn.
Policy and Personnel Committee, we have not had a meeting since the last board meeting, so there's no report. And I'd like to take 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, and 6.5 as consent. If anybody has any problems with that, we can still discuss them, but thought we'd take them together.
Okay, moved in second. Questions, comments, or discussions?
I just would like to say for 6.3, the resignation of Alexis Hill to, of course, we don't know why, but thank you very much for the time that she did spend here. As we know, LPNs are hard to come by and very stressful jobs these days. And that leads to 6.4, where I think Mike should make some comments on that since we're talking about having a new position.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. As Ms. Cinda alluded to, she's absolutely right. What I'm asking the board to approve tonight is an additional position for an LPN that will be paid out of our ESSER funds. We have an athletic, let me restate that. We have a COVID subcommittee made up of parents and community members. I met with them. Part of our work was how do we get more hands on deck, more help for the nurses. One strategy was through IEP, but the other strategy was trying to find another LPN. As you know, this board approved testing. We didn't know how it was going to go. And within 2 weeks, we're close to 90 families who've taken advantage of the testing. And that requires all hands on deck and more additional help and support. So what I'm respectfully asking is the use of ESSER funds to help provide and pay for an LPN for this year to come in and provide some additional support to the nursing offices here in the district. We think it makes sense. We think it's timely. We think it's also appropriate use of ESSER funds. And I think it's going to go a long way to help support the nurses to some extent. The issue, like anything else, we are not above the talent wars. I'm hopeful we can find a qualified candidate. I've reached out to ICTC. I reached out to Westmoreland Community College, and I have to call the Admiral Perry Votech as well as Johnstown Area Votech to see if they have any LPNs or recent graduates. We'll do our best to try to find it, but at this point, I think we need to provide as much support we can to the nurses, and this is a step in the right direction.
Okay, questions, comments, further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's carried.
Okay, 6.6, long-term substitute positions, that based on the recommendation of the administration, the board employs Gina Akasili Allison as a long-term ELA teacher at the senior high school retroactively to November 30th, 2021, and continuing until the last teacher day of the 2021-2022 school year at a per diem rate of $276.95, instructional 1, step 3, be approved, pending receipt of all required paperwork. The next one is that based on the recommendation of administration, the board employs Julie Shirley as a long-term BCIT teacher at the junior high school retroactively to November 8th, 2021, and continuing until the last teacher day of the 2021-2022 school year at a per diem rate of $250.41. Instructional 1, step 1, be approved, pending receipt of all required paperwork. that based on the recommendation of administration, the board employs Cindy Lee as a long-term elementary substitute teacher beginning January 7th, 2022, and continuing until April 13th, 2022, at a per diem rate of $250.41. Instructional 1, Step 1, be approved pending receipt of all required paperwork. And that, based on the recommendation of administration, the board employs Allison Howells as a long-term elementary substitute teacher beginning January 24th, 2022, and continuing until the last teacher day of the 2021-2022 school year at a per diem rate of $250.41. Instructional 1, Step 1, be approved, pending, of course, receipt of all required paperwork.
Second.
Okay, it's moved in second. Questions, comments, or discussion? Mike, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I appreciate the board's deliberation on the qualified candidates that we brought forward, and we look forward to working with them to provide some stability for our kids through these turbulent times, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Jared, could you answer the question of why the first one is paid more per day?
It would depend on if the person has done long-term subbing for us in the past, they get credit for that.
Okay. Additional questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried.
And motion 6.7, extra duty, extra pay assignments. That based on the recommendation of administration, the board approves the following extra duty, extra pay assignments for the 2021-2022 school year. Aaliyah Kessel, junior high musical director at $2,784. Jason Rummel, junior high musical vocal director at $1,615. Zachary Karcher, junior high musical orchestra director, also at $1,615, for a total of $6,014.
Second.
Questions, comments, or discussion on the board on these assignments? Yeah, it's moved and seconded. Yes, Tom. Okay, nothing heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Carrie, buildings and grounds.
Yeah, two things. There's a special building and grounds meeting scheduled for next Monday night, December 13th at 5:30, where Mr. Vukovich will present the second option of the grade reconfiguration. It is the 2K through 3 buildings and the 145 building. And then the second thing, there'll be notes coming out from Buchard Horn. Jared and I and Mr. Vukovich and Rob and some others met with Buchard Horn and the engineer and just talked about basically three things. One is the old office space here at the East Pike. You know, we just brainstormed some different things, come up with a room configuration that the engineer and architect are going to now work toward. We discussed a little bit the HVAC systems here a little bit, just tweaking that information so that they can start putting together a bid package. And then we talked about Eisenhower, and Jared earlier mentioned that the engineer and architect met at Eisenhower to start looking that over. So, but
Okay,
Eli had put minutes together and he's finalizing those, so they'll be sent out to the board here shortly.
okay, sounds good. Another one of Mike's dynamic presentations for next week. Okay, audit and finance, Julia.
Thank you, Walter. We did have an audit and finance meeting on November 22nd. It was a good meeting. It went over time, which is rare for our committee. We had 8 items on the agenda. I would like to point out that Cinda Brode has agreed, as she's chair of policy and personnel, that we would meet for audit and finance on January 10th. Is that the right date? Sort of at the end of her meeting, so that the specific purpose is to sort of discuss LRTA. so that we can get this straightened out. The borough and the county are moving this along, and I think that gives us plenty of time to ask Ben Thorne any questions we have with Jared. So count on that. I think that's going to be important.
Julia, that's the one issue from the finance committee. Cinda may have other issues as well to discuss
Yeah,
that
I
night.
said like at the end of her meeting.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to discuss. So at our last meeting, I'll go over it briefly. Most of us were there. We had our audit update, and we should have our audit report completed soon, Jared. And I'm hoping that Jamie can come in I thought February, the first part of February might be better than, or early January.
The audit report should be finished by the end of this week. I think we were just trying to set up a date in either January or February for Kim to actually come present.
Or
The
Kim,
audit
I'm
report
thinking
to
of
the board.
Jamie, okay, Kim. We also went over, the budget transfers. Now, there's a motion on tonight. Do you want to explain precisely what budget transfers you've been looking into?
Yeah, the budget transfers are a normal part of the school district's year-end closing. It takes a look at any budget line within the overall approved budget that was overspent, and we just get board approval because you actually formally approve the budget every year before June 30th. And what we do as part of this is just to move money around within the budget to cover lines that may have been overspent. As that becomes a part of our audit report to look at the budget. The budget overall was not overspent last year, so please don't think that we're just moving money around within budget to zero out lines, not to zero out lines, but to put money in lines that may have been overspent.
So you're going to tidy it up.
Yes.
Okay, very good. We also discussed that there's a motion on the agenda tonight about S&T Bank and the Stewart Capital account, the product that Mr. Malcolm Riley came and presented to us that enables us to earn a little bit more money on our monies as they go into the general fund. We put a cap on it at about 10 million. The committee agreed on that, so that's on the motion tonight. Proposed LRTA, if anyone has any questions they would like to submit to either Ben Ford or Jared, just ask through Jared, because that'll probably come up. We have a board meeting on the 10th too, don't we?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Athletic funding discussion, that was a long discussion. We do have a motion on the agenda tonight. We are anticipating that come winter, starting in January, that the administration is going to look at some of our athletic policies and start to come up with some recommendations so that how we can improve our situation with athletics. So stay tuned for that. Budget timeline, first vote will be January 10th, and that's on the, what do you call that, where you can't go any higher?
Whether the board wants to consider a tax increase, it's just setting it within the index or preparing a preliminary budget and applying for exceptions to raise the index, which this year our index is 4.3%.
Which is high.
It is.
Typically, we have never raised beyond the index. I don't know that since I've been on the board.
We never have.
But we are going to move forward into the next fiscal year and continue this year at 0% tax increases. Not that we can guarantee it, but we budget that way. I just wanted to go back to a second to the athletic funding discussion. The budget, we've worked hard to make sure we have a proper budget arrangement and that we're doing things in a timely fashion, and we're really looking at this at the committee in a very disciplined way, and I appreciate all the work the committee puts in. So in terms of athletic funding, this budget's pretty well set, but we're going to start looking at the following fiscal year, and that would include the athletic discussions as well, and what will be in what numbers will be set. Donation reports were very strong for the outdoor classroom at Ben Franklin and the life skills equipment at the high school. Really, really was heartening. And lastly, we talked about the joint purchasing resolution, which is on the agenda tonight. Do you want to just explain briefly? I think we do that every year, don't we?
It is. It's a routine item. It is an agreement with Allegheny IU3, which covers Allegheny County. We use that consortium for natural gas purchases, as well as diesel for our buses.
Okay. Okay, that completes my report. I think we could take all of these as consent items, but I think maybe we should go over them one by one. I think that would be better that way. Does anybody have an objection to taking these each? Approval of bills, I move that the bills be approved and submitted.
Second.
Cindy seconded.
Okay, is there questions, comments on the bills? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Okay, I move, gives me great pleasure to move that Jared Cronauer, business manager, be reappointed for a one-year term to the delegate, as the delegate to the Indiana County Tax Collection Committee, and Nicole Decker, assistant business manager, be reappointed the alternate delegate for a one-year term.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. All those, any questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, for the benefit of the new board members and the community, we are one of 3 taxing bodies, okay, within the district, the school district, the county, and of course the borough. And so whatever one does, the other one, it impacts all the rest of them. So they have this joint committee to work out various tax issues. Any other discussion or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I move that the necessary budget transfers in connection with the 2020-21 year-end audit be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. Questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
I move that based on the recommendation of the committee, Stewart Capital, a subsidiary of S&T Bank, be approved as an investment option for district funds at an amount not to exceed $10 million.
Second.
Okay, questions, comments, or discussion on that? I think the only thing I would add to it is that we're trying to be good stewards of the dollars that we have. There's an opportunity here, little or no risk, to increase our yield, and that's the purpose of actually doing this.
Yeah, and I want to thank S&T Bank for coming forward and offering this through Stewart Capital.
Okay, any further questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
That based on the recommendation of the committee, the board approves the following additional one-time funding for athletics for the 2021-2022 season: $20,000 for lacrosse, that would be $10,000 for the boys and $10,000 for the girls, $10,000 for ice hockey, and $2,500 for the rugby team.
We have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Questions, comments, or discussion on this motion?
I'd like to say that this was hard for us to sort of wrap our heads around. We know that we have a lot of work to do in understanding more about how our teams work and the various issues that they face, one of which, of course, is always funding and other Title IX issues that are very interesting that we have to work on. But this week, we came forward as an effort of good faith on the part of the committee. We were split a little bit on that. But it's an effort in good faith to show that we do support these teams that are actually, lacrosse is a school sport, but ice hockey and rugby are not. But we wish them the very best in their athletic endeavors.
And this motion also aligns with all of our policies and procedures and all that. That's been thoroughly investigated.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking at policies and procedures, of course, starting in January. But none of these items are budgeted. So, we had a thorough discussion about it, and we think that this is reasonable and where we are right now.
Okay, further questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
That the board approves the resolution participation in the Allegheny IU3's joint purchasing consortium.
Second.
Okay, questions, comments, or discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
I'm very happy to move that the board accepts the $25 donation from the Junior Women's Civics Club to the senior high library.
Okay, moved in second. We thank the Junior Women's Civic Club for their donation. Further discussion, questions, or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
That the board approves the contracting with the Act 80 Automator to help the district better streamline the Act 80 process for an estimated amount of $1,710.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. Questions, comments, or discussion on that?
Mike, would you discuss the Act 80 automator?
Yeah, I'll do my best. I'll defer to Jared. I think what it is it's a data tool that Wes uses as our student information management system leader that helps report Act 80 hours to the Department of Education,
Act 80 hours or what?
professional development hours for teachers. And this will help automate the process. As you know, we used to have previously 2 people in that position. We only have 1. And this is just one tool we think that would help him, or Wes believes that would help him expedite the process. Is that correct, Jared? I believe that's what we discussed when we met with him, correct?
I got some additional clarification. So
Okay.
Act 80 does sound like it would be Act 80 hours in service, but actually what it is every year as the Department of Revenue is closing out the tax year, they send us a file that includes every single taxpayer within our district who filed taxes with them. And we are to verify that just because they claimed Indiana School District, that they actually live within our district. So it is a huge process that the district has to go through to verify whether these people live in our district or not. And as Mr. Vukovic said,
I was pretty close. I was pretty close, Mr. Farley. Pretty close on that one.
as we've been reducing staff within the administration office here, this process would just help automate that horribly long, probably week-long or more process that it takes to compare that information and report back to the Department of Revenue. So we're just asking for the board's support on getting some help with that, doing that.
Is it a one-time expense? Is it a yearly expense? What,
That it would be
is it a
a yearly
software
expense.
upgrade?
It's like a software subscription almost.
Okay.
Okay, now we've got it cleared up. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're down to the closing. We have no specific discussion items. Is there public comment on agenda items? Nothing heard. We did have some enclosures this evening. Our next board meeting will be a regular meeting at January the 10th, 2022. For general purposes, please note that there will only be one board meeting in December. We have a committee meeting this month, Buildings, Grounds, and Transportation. It'll be next Monday night at 5:30, again for Mike's dynamic presentation. And I'm going to put our solicitor on the spot, our substitute guy here. We did have an executive session for the benefit of the press. Can you tell them, without disclosing any issues, what we covered in our executive session?
Sure, there were several topics that included personnel. Some of those items were acted upon this evening. There was some discussion relative to, I believe it's you guys classified as labor relations. And there was also some discussion on some legal and safety matters as well.
Okay, thank you. Carl, the press always wants to know a little more detail than we just had an executive session.
Sure.
So when the solicitor's here, I always like to have them answer the question. That way it adds a little more credibility to what we've actually done. At this point in time, I move for adjournment. So moved. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
All right, Mike, you ready to get video?